Well, good afternoon. A couple of minutes before noon here. Going to let some people jump in this, and we're going to start right at noon about what I was going to talk about today. All right. I hope everybody's doing well out there, staying home, staying out of trouble if possible. All right. Looks like we got about 1 minute, and I'm going to get started here. Yep. All right. Rich says no place to comment, and I don't see him on here. So, oh, there's Rachel. Rachel has joined us. All right, well, it's noon. Let's get started. If you are out there listening and you don't have a comment bar, which I'm not sure why that would even be, just send me a text at tsellers11. I'm sorry, an email at tsellers11@gmail.com, or you can send me a text at 708-541-0215. So I want to thank you for joining me today. I hope I have some things to say to you that may resonate, may make you think a little bit. So let's just jump right in. First thing I want to say is I hope everybody is safe at home and doing what they have to stay away from this coronavirus. I actually had a good friend of mine I spoke with yesterday said, "Hey, Tom, what do you think about all this?" And, quite frankly, I don't know all the facts, as I don't think too many of us do. What I do know is, the numbers seem to be increasing, and that the best I can understand is it is spread from human contact. Now, with that being said, on both sides of the political spectrum, and I'm not going to jump into either side right now because it really doesn't do any good. There's plenty of fear mongering. There's plenty of reasons for people to get scared about all this. And I've been watching social media a little bit, and quite frankly, a lot of the stuff I've seen has been very funny. And then a lot more of it, I think to myself, there's a lot of people out there that need to wipe the dust off their Bible, take a look at it for a minute for some of the things that they're saying. So moving along, I want to talk about some other things. I want to thank everybody who's out there working because they have to, those in the front lines of this, the doctors, nurses, pharmacy workers, the police, first responders, military, and those people that are still making deliveries to keep us from having to go out too often and bringing in the necessary supplies to the stores. So my hat's off to all of you. And I also want to pose this question to all of us that are our business owners. When you look at things like, and you hear the word essential business, I don't know about you, but I consider my business essential. Well, essential to who? Well, it's essential to me. It's essential to the companies that I have that I owe money to. They consider me to be essential to their bottom line, and I find it essential to keep using the products that I owe them for. So, in my opinion, my business is just as essential as everybody else's. Now, that being said, I know a lot of people have been told to stay home, and kind of where I want to begin with this. If anybody has, hello Frank, how are you? If anybody can tell me, please put it in the comment bars. What do these companies that I'm about to name off all have in common? So let me give you the list. U.S. Steel, Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing, you probably know as 3M today. Anybody heard of Colonel Harlan Sanders? You may have heard of a little restaurant called KFC. Hewlett Packard, Procter & Gamble, Martin Guitars. More recently, Credit Karma, Groupon, WhatsApp, Uber, Venmo, and Square. Any idea how those all fall into the same sentence? Now, they are obviously many years apart, but what is it they have in common? I'll give you a second. Nothing? Nobody? All right, let me tell you. The first several companies that I spoke of, U.S. Steel, 3M, Hewlett Packard, those were all created in and around the Great Depression. The tech companies that I spoke of later, Credit Karma, Uber, Square, those all started in around 2008 and 2009. So what is important about that? In my opinion, it's this. If we could look back on those days, now obviously I was not around for the Great Depression, though my grandparents were, and I heard a lot of what they went through. I was around in 2008. I did manage to see the financial meltdown. So if we look at what's happened then and equate it to some of what's happening today. Hi, Glenn. How you doing, sir? Here's my take on it. There are many of us that are watching the news and being scared half to death about what we're seeing. There are many of us that are quote unquote stuck at home. We were told we have to either work from home or we did not have to work, so go home. My question that I posed last time is, what are we doing with that time? Are we binge watching Netflix and drinking all day and all night? I don't know, and it's not my business what people do. But here's a suggestion. Those companies, the people that started those companies that were on my list, were going through much the same thing we are right now. There was fear. There was an economic meltdown. There were things going on where it was difficult to even get products. Today, we still can. Andrew, how are you, sir? However, the people that began those companies that I just spoke of were under the same circumstances, every one of them. And every one of them said, wait a minute, I am not about to fall into the fear and the doom and gloom. I'm going to pivot. Now, what do I mean by pivot? Well, let's say that what you do, you can't do today. So what are your options when I say pivot? Pivot means simply to move in a different direction. So if I'm moving in a different direction, what does that mean? Well, perhaps I'm a salesman, but I can't go make sales calls. Do people still need the product I sell? More than likely. So what's the pivot there, Tom? You know, the one thing that is unaffected by all of this, the one thing that you can jump on at any time of the day or night, gather information, spout off your opinion, is the internet. The internet is not affected by this in the least little bit. In fact, it's growing because more people have time to sit on it and again, spout their opinion, good, bad, or otherwise. What if the people that I spoke of drop down to that level of the world is over, gloom and doom, we're never going to recover from this? Because I've heard this kind of talk today. What if they took that opinion? There'd be no 3M, there'd be no Uber, there'd be none of these places that I spoke of. So what is my point to you? My point to you is this. At the end of the day, you have to remember something. and we all know it, but sometimes we forget it. And that is this. This too will pass. This is not going to last forever. The world is going to be a different place in some respects. Agreed. But this too will pass. So if we're looking at the grand scheme of things, how prepared will most of us come out of this once it does in fact pass? Let me kind of go into what I'm talking about. If you are locked down from your job, if you're working from home, if you're saying this isn't cutting it, I'm not making enough money, when this passes, how better prepared will you be when the doors open again? I have some suggestions about that, as you've probably figured I did. The one thing that I fully believe and always have is if you want to earn more money, or if you want to earn money to replace what you have lost, there is one way that you can accomplish that goal faster than any, and that is learn more. Learn something else. Learn how to pivot. Learn how to take the position you are in, if that is what you want to continue doing, and pivot to another direction that it works now. The people that created these companies that I spoke of did a couple of things that are still true today. And kind of a side note, I promise you, I don't know who it's going to be, but I promise you, when this opens up again, and this has passed, there's going to be at least one and probably many more innovations that are going to make somebody very wealthy because they took the opportunity of this time to pivot, to learn a new skill. Maybe they had a great idea, and you know what? Great ideas, they're a dime a dozen. Everybody's got them. They're only valuable if you do something with them. How many of us over the years, and I'm guilty of it, I was for a lot of years, I stayed in a position simply because I knew how to do it. I was good at it. And I always said to myself, one day I'm going to work for me. And through the better part of 30 years, I kept thinking that, but I didn't do anything about it. How many of us, if we look in the mirror, have said, you know, if I can get some time, because quite frankly, I work all day, then I come home, and I got to take care of my kids, or I got to hang around with my family, excuse me, and next thing I know, it's time to go to bed, and I start and do it all over again. And how many of us have said, you know, if I could just get some spare time, that I can examine what it is I want to do, if I can learn a new skill, if I can take some risk to implement that skill, and if I can refine that skill, maybe I just work for me from now on. We've all said it. But here's the thing, for the first time in my life at least, everybody has that opportunity right now, or the vast majority do. So my advice and my challenge, I'm challenging everybody who's watching this. If you have ever thought to yourself, I want to earn more money. If any of you have thought, you know, I can get far ahead of this game if I work on my regular position that I'm getting regular money for, and if I can invent another position for myself, maybe in my own company, maybe my own little side gig, it doesn't matter what it is. And if I learn how to do it, I now have another skill that is marketable and I can get paid for. Folks, now you have the time to do it. Have you thought about a lawn care business? What does it take to start a lawn care business? What does it take to open a logistics company? What does it take to become an owner of an online store? I mean, I can literally give you hundreds of ways of making more money. I can't make you learn how to do it. You have to do that. I live by, if you want to earn more, you have to learn more. You know, there's arguments out there right now, and again, I'm not here to take a side. Just present my own opinion. You know, there's a lot of talk about what a job should be paid, a minimum wage, a minimum this. You know, when I was growing up, and I still believe to this day, to earn more money, I need to have more skill. If any of you have heard of, and I'm sure many of you have, or read books by Jim Rohn, he started out his journey, and he said so, and it's not only educational but humorous to listen to. So go to YouTube and look up Jim Rohn. He goes through his career starting from when he was a teenager, knowing that in his skill was he knew how to milk cows. And he said, "Yep, I was real good at it, but it didn't pay a lot of money." And then he talked about how he went and learned how to sell. Somebody taught him how to sell. He listened. So now he had two skills. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing because he says that he tells it a lot better than I ever could. But here's what I will say. If you are currently unhappy with what you're making, you need to learn a new skill. You can't count on somebody, if you're working at a company, to pay you more money for having the same skill. It doesn't work that way. You can't force an economy to say what a particular job is worth. That is up to the industry and the market. So if you want to earn more, learn more. If you notice on the top here, there's a link up here. I sent you to one of the things that I do. Take a look at it if you have any interest. Give me a call. We'll happily talk about it. Now, my partner on this show, Frank Hostica, he's watching right now, and I don't want to forget Frank. Frank is doing the same thing, and Frank's doing well at it. So, excuse me, give us a call. We can talk you through some things. And I'm also going to do this. I want to make sure I'm looking through my notes here. I want to make sure I covered everything here. So bear with me real quick, make sure that I got it right. And I think I do. I've got in most of what I was looking to say. Again, if you want to earn more, learn more. Plain and simple. And you don't have to learn from me. There are plenty of people out there that will teach you many things. You don't have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. You don't even have to spend tens of thousands to do something for yourself. The only thing I would advise you on, or how I would look to do it if I was you, is find something you really, really have an interest in. Once you've done that, find out if there's a market for it. Well, how do you do that? Well, you can look all over social media. It's a great place to start. You can look at YouTube and look up videos for that particular thing that you're interested in. If you see a lot of them, guess what? You have a marketable thing to talk about there. Well, what else is going to be important if I'm going to learn something new? Well, the word here is learn. Because you're not going to learn it all. Hello, Terry Wilson. How are you, sir? You're not going to learn it all just by watching a video or listening to somebody like me talk. I could probably bore half you to death. And for that, I would apologize. But here's what I can tell you. If you really want to learn something, if you really want to earn more, you got to learn more. And learning is kind of a three-part process. Once you've decided what it is that you want to learn about, it's easy enough to Google things. If you can find somebody that's doing what you're doing, if you can find somebody who's been down that trail you're trying to walk down, reach out to them. And the thing you'll find about people like that, the people that are very they're successful regardless of how you define that. Most of them want to help. Most of them want to give you the keys to the kingdom. They want to show you where, if you go this way instead of this way, this may be your problem. So perhaps I advise you to go this way, because I already went that way and it didn't work for me. So try this. It did. So there's a lot to be said for learning from somebody who's been there. There is a ton to be said for taking the time to immerse yourself in things that are going to take you that way. Read books. My gosh, there's so many books to read. Now, how do you know a good one from a bad one? Well, sometimes you don't. Here's what I can tell you, though. if you are starting to hear the same thing and starting to read the same thing in various places that you get education about how to earn more, and you're seeing the same thing and hearing the same thing, there's a good chance that there's something to the tune. A lot of times what happens, and we've all done it, heck, I did it. We start something and we think we're smarter than the system. Anybody ever do that? I know I did. And what ends up ultimately happening almost every time, if you go back to those first few steps of fundamentals, and you look at it and say, I tried to complicate it. More times than not, when we get involved trying to do something different, we overcomplicate it. We try to overthink the process. We think this won't work, that won't work, without actually trying what those in front of us showed us. Don't make that mistake. Don't make that mistake if you can avoid it. So here's kind of where I'm going to go with in closing this. And again, I want to thank everybody who jumped in on this and listened to me with my brief history lesson. The companies that I named, the people that were involved with those companies, were looking at conditions similar to where we find ourselves today. The difference is they didn't buy into all the gloom and doom. They saw an opportunity. Hey, wait a minute, everybody's sitting, and I tell you what, that's what I'm doing. I know that 90% of the people are sitting at home right now doing virtually nothing, which gives me a perfect opportunity to do what I do. Now, are things a little bit slower? Sure. Are they at zero? Nope, they are not. Do I have to adjust some things? Sure. But you know how you do make those adjustments? Is you go out and do it and find out what's working, and then change them if they're not. And if you have a good framework and a good mentor and somebody that you can be in contact with, they can help you find where that mistake is, where that hole is, where that adjustment needs to be made. So in closing, I'm going to ask everybody for a favor. If you would, please share this. I know there's a lot of people at home that could probably spend, what am we on here, about 20 minutes? 20 minutes, maybe learning something, maybe changing their thinking a little bit. And that's what I'm trying to help with. I'm not trying to sell anybody on anything. I'm saying let's think for a second. This too will pass. As long as we know this too will pass, we have to be prepared for when the doors open. And the best way to prepare is not to wait for the doors to fly open. The best time to prepare is while the doors are still closed, learning the knowledge that other people aren't using. So again, I've got a link up in the top. You can text me, you can email me. If you would, please share this with people. If you have questions, leave a comment, or like I said, send me a text. I am actually going to do on Wednesday, and I'll get back with, I'll post on here on the time. I'm going to do a Zoom meeting with those that are interested, and I'm going to go under the hood of some things I'm doing. Again, if you have some interest, if you'd like to start the process of earning more, to learn more, I'm here to help you. I'm here to teach a little bit if you have interest. So that being said, this is Tom Sellers with our 2 cents. I hope you got something out of this. Please leave me some comments. Let me know what you thought, and please, even bigger, share this with people. This is how this kind of thing gets started. This is how we kind of go from gloom and doom to this too will pass. Folks, thanks for listening. I'm Tom Sellers with our 2 cents, and we will see you next time.